Welcome to Behind the Music, the Houston Chamber Choir's weekly podcast. I'm St. John Flynn. And this time, I'm very pleased to be able to talk to a frequent collaborator with the Houston Chamber Choir. That's mezzo-soprano Cecilia Duarte. Cecy, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, I'm very excited to be here with you today.
And where are you?
I am right now at my home in Houston. That's where I live, and I have been a resident of this city for 16 years. So I'm quite at home now.
And you and your family, everybody is safe and well during the pandemic lockdown?
Yes, we have been doing very well. My husband and my 4-year-old daughter, Julia, I think I can tell you for sure that she has been the best of the three of us, but we all are doing great.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. You were born in Mexico. Whereabouts in Mexico?
I was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, which is the capital of the state of Chihuahua also. And we actually share border with Texas through El Paso. So, you know, for the area where I was growing up in, I got, you know, a lot, of course, of my Mexican culture, but a lot of influence also from the United States. And that's where I grew up. It's a desert area of people that are very loyal and brave because of the circumstances. You know, it's dry land. So that forges the character of people, but I love it. It's a beautiful city.
And presumably you still have family there and go back to see them regularly?
Yes, actually, all my family is there. My mom and I have 4 brothers. They are all older than me. I'm the baby. And the only girl.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, my brothers live there with their families, with their wives and kids. My oldest brother lives down in Guadalajara with his wife and kids also. But yes, all my family is in Mexico. I'm the only one living on this side of the border.
Did you grow up in a musical family?
I did. Yeah, very musical. My grandfather on my mom's side was an actor and a singer. And later in his life, he became a radio person when he sort of like retired the singing. And on my dad's side, both my grandfather and my grandmother were classical musicians. They were professional pianists, and my grandmother was also a cello player. Well, no, both of them were cello players.
Oh, wow.
She was actually one of the first women that was able to go to a conservatory in Mexico.
Oh, really?
Yes. Wow. And yeah, so, you know, everybody in my family sings either professionally or just for fun. But yeah, my mom actually has a beautiful voice, and she sang all her life in choirs. And my dad was in the seminary, but he got to be an organist there. So yeah, I was surrounded by music all the time.
What was the music that was played in your house? Either on the gramophone or CD player, or what sort of music did you listen to?
Yeah, we had a gramophone. I remember it quite well. You know, the music that was played was really varied because of my dad's seminary life. And, you know, I also have a family, my dad's side of the family, some of his siblings became priests. Right. And so.
But your father didn't.
He didn't. He was, you know, then he met my mom who was singing in the choir. And then, you know, the sacred life ended. But yeah, he left that and he decided to pursue a married life. And Yeah, I'm so grateful for that, because then, I'm here.
Right.
But yeah, so, like sacred music was always part of my upbringing. We love listening to, like Handel's Messiah, or, the masses in Latin and stuff like that, Gregorian chant. And so that was one side of it. And then on the other side, I grew up surrounded by just like popular music. My mom always, one of my first memories of her is singing boleros, these like beautiful Mexican songs. I call them the Mexican art songs. They're really beautiful and often performed by what are known as trios. So it's like usually, three musicians singing together in harmony. And I mean, those songs are so beautiful. And my mom, up until now, I still haven't heard of a song that she doesn't know, because her repertoire is just so extensive. And so she was singing those songs all the time. And so it was always either that, or sacred music, a lot of pop music too. And, funnily enough, I never heard mariachi music, but more like, bolero stuff. It was beautiful songs, and now I love singing them too.
The bolero, is it the same as a ballad?
Yes, they're pretty much, romantic songs. They are ballads. They are, as I said, usually performed with a guitar, and the poetry tends to be very beautiful. The harmonies are, pretty sophisticated, especially when you get to hear them performed by these trios. The three musicians not only have to, like, some of them are virtuosos in their instrument. They get to do really intricate stuff, and also like the harmonies that they make when they sing are very tight. And to make it work, it has to be like a perfect balance between the music and the melody and the harmony, and of course bringing out the lyrics.
So you were used to being exposed to choral music, right from a very young age. Yes,
harmonization was a thing that I had to do and listen to since an early age. And also because it's what we do in Latin America. Someone starts singing a song, and if you know it, you must harmonize it. You need to add another voice, whether nobody needs to ask for it, you have to do it. It's like expected. So it's like in my blood, pretty much.
What was the first music that you actually went out and bought?
Well, this was actually later in my life, when I was already like able to buy my own stuff. In the past, I would ask my parents, I want this for Christmas. But I remember like the very first thing that I bought was a CD of Ella Fitzgerald. It was,
oh, really?
Yes, it was Ella Fitzgerald singing the Gershwin songbook. And oh my goodness,
what a phenomenal voice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she's the best. And honestly, she is my bread of every day. Like, there is not a day that goes by without me listening to her. And it's just wonderful to hear such perfection, and whether we sing pop, jazz, or classical, there's so much to learn from what she did.
Pitch perfect. She was pitch perfect, wasn't she?
Yes. Yeah, you could trust her even more than any other instrument. And, her ability, I have tons of also videos of her, talking about what she did. And she's like, I just do it, as if it was just like a normal thing. But then the naturality in which she brought the line in a song, there's nothing that she didn't do well. She was a perfect, ballad singer, but also the fast rhythms. She was great at it, and not even mention like her ability to scat was just marvelous.
And her voice was effortless, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like velvet. She could just sing, and she could do anything, and she never seemed to encounter any sort of difficulty.
No, she could hug you with her voice. And I really like watching videos of her singing, because it seems like she was just such in her own music making that, like, I think one can take, their eyes off her, because she is so into what she's doing. And I honestly don't know if she was actually thinking of what she was going to do next or not. But it is just so wonderful. And she actually could use her voice as any other instrument, which is also like so important, and it's something that we as singers sometimes don't get into, right? Or like we don't feel as much as part of an ensemble. But she did that, and everything she did with her voice was that. I mean, the way she was able to blend but also lead a whole band was pure perfection. I love her.
When you started singing, were you singing as part of a choir?
Yes, I started singing very early as part of a choir, in church, in school. And also my dad, this is like why music is also so important for me, and art in general. My dad passed away when I was only 8 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, he got leukemia, and sadly back then, there was like not much that could be done. So from the moment he was diagnosed, we had only 7 months until he left. And yeah, so the first thing that my mom did for me, because I was so young, was to put me in an after school program, that where I could do all sorts of things, from singing, dancing, painting, acting, doing musicals. And that became my refuge. That became a place where I could maybe, get out my own pain, I guess, and heal.
Sure.
Because I really don't remember. Of course, it was tough growing up, but
Sure.
At the same time, I think that art and music gave me so much, and enriched myself so much, that I was able to put all of that into the work that I was doing and the things that I was learning. So, and it was also in a way a connection that I could still share with my dad, because he taught me my first notes in the piano, and of course, like, we sang together all the time. So it was just like a nice way to stay linked to him, and at the same time, like, finding that I had, good things inside of me, and growing up in a healthy way, in a nice
It's a good way
way.
to honor him.
Yeah, definitely. And so that's, I started singing a lot. I remember the director of this company, or of this little school, she made her own adaptation of the musical Godspell.
Oh, really?
And we did it in Spanish, and so that was like one of the first things I got to sing. And so I was like singing, dancing, doing a little solo here or there. And it was so nice. I remember I just like enjoy doing that, because I started performing already, on stage. And, in the beginning, it was just like having our families there as the audience. But it was so nice. I remember being so excited about having someone in the audience that I didn't know, because that meant that, it's not just my family that's looking at me or that's coming.
It's a real audience.
Exactly. Things are getting real. So yeah, I mean, I honestly never stopped singing since. either in one way or another. Then later on, when I was 15, I joined a musical theater company in my hometown too.
Okay.
And I was singing in the choir. But yeah, like the more I think about it, it's like I honestly never stopped.
So you were used to singing more popular music as well?
Yes. But pretty much my upbringing and like singing wise experience was mostly through musical theater and pop music.
When did you start to veer toward a more classical repertoire? Do you remember?
That happened actually when I moved out of my city of Chihuahua. After I graduated high school, I moved down to Guadalajara, where my oldest brother was living already there. And I moved there. I started studying at the School of Sacred Music. And I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. It was very strange. But, as soon as I graduated high school, and, I thought, then what do I want to do? Well, I've been singing all this time. Then I think I want to keep singing, but for real, or more seriously.
Right.
And so that's what helped me make that decision. Now I really have a great admiration for, younger kids that plan their future so early and they know what they want. That wasn't my case. I just knew I wanted to keep singing. So I did that and I started studying there. But it was actually outside of school when I found a private voice teacher. And he was actually an American tenor that had retired and was living there in Guadalajara. He was Dr. Harlan Snow. And he was the one that started teaching me, the basic classical technique. And I was not attracted to opera yet, but I knew I liked, he knew, oh, you like sacred music. And so he gave me a Bach solo. And that was one of the first things I ever sung in a more, classical way and using more classical technique. And I fell in love with it. As soon as I started preparing it and learning it, I remember, that feeling of, my voice starting to find a home. And it was so exciting because I could not stop listening to that music. I didn't know much of, of the repertoire, although of course, like I knew about Bach and some of his works, but not really like getting into it. And so that became a very special thing for me because that's when I started realizing, okay, I think I also want to start exploring what else can I do in this field.
At this point, were you already a mezzo-soprano?
Yeah, I think even earlier than that, I was always put it like as an alto. But I don't think there was ever like any suspicion of me being a soprano, except when I was very, very young. But yes, at that point, it had already been decided, and it felt comfortable for me.
At what point did you start to sort of break out of the ensemble and become a soloist?
That took a while. That actually took a while. My time in Guadalajara, I was actually part of the Jalisco's stage choir. And, I got to do several solos there, but I was still part of the ensemble. And it wasn't until I moved here to Houston that I pretty much, and I sort of like forced myself to go there. I think there was always that thought, inside of me saying, can you do this or can you not? Because I guess I was just like following my instincts and finding my path as I went along with my life and my learning. No one ever told me you're gonna be, you know, in a choir forever, or you have everything you need to be a soloist. Like, you know, no one ever reassured me one or the other thing.
Right.
You know,
you had to find that yourself.
Yeah. So I was actually searching for that myself, and I lived in Guadalajara for 8 years. I moved to Houston in 2004, and it happened like also like years after that, because when I got here, I found a church job, and that was my first job here in the States. And then
singing in a church choir.
Yes. I actually worked at Palmer Episcopal, and I was there for 10 years, and it was great. But then the year after I got here, I started working for the HGO chorus.
Houston Grand Opera.
Yes, at Houston Grand Opera. And it was my time there that slowly started, you know, things started getting a little bit more serious for me. I was a chorister for 5 full seasons. And I loved it. It was a time, you know, that I cherish, like, always. It was so amazing to be able to work with Richard Beto and be in the rehearsal room with him. And,
he's,
you know,
the
then
chorus master.
Yes, he is the chorus master. And so it was one of my favorite things about being a chorister, being in the rehearsal room with him. It's like such a learning experience. So I was there for 5 years, and also I started doing the outreach for Houston Grand Opera through their department, HGO Co. And so I started, you know, singing opera, not just like opera for kids, but also I started being part of these other projects that they were, you know, doing, like with new music. And so I also find that I like contemporary music and working with composers, and then seeing like the birth of like new music and new projects. Anyway, there was a point in my life when I decided to leave all of that, because I said, maybe I have a chance to, you know, make it as a soloist, but I'm not gonna find out until I put myself there. And I pretty much like put myself in a very uncomfortable position, because I left. You know, I said, I'm gonna leave for a while. I need to know what's out there. Also, no one else knew me here in town, because my time was devoted, as you know, between being a chorister and doing all the outreach work. Right. So as soon as I did that, I started writing emails to pretty much every artistic director in town. And I said, you don't know me, but I would like to sing for you. And, you know, I don't know, maybe one day you'll need a mezzo.
Do you remember the first reply that you got to those emails? The first solo job?
I think the first one was, or one of the first ones came from a Bach Society. And, you know, it was Bach, so it was just like amazing for me. Right. But also I remember Cantare was doing Rachmaninoff Vespers, and I sang with the ensemble, but I got the solos too. So, you know, and everything else took time. I also, you know, auditioned for Matthew Durst and
Ars Lyrica.
With Ars Lyrica, and you know, now I work with them a lot. And so, yeah, but it was, you know, when I think about it, I guess I was so naive, because I didn't know how things work. You know, my instinct literally just drove me to do things. And I said, well, maybe this should be the way, you know, if they don't know about me, then I have to tell them my name and go sing for them. So it
well, I mean, if you're not going to do it, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm happy I did that, and I'm happy I have been able to hold a very good relationship with pretty much everybody, that I have worked in the past.
Well, one of the organizations that you have worked with regularly, of course, is the Houston Chamber Choir. And I must congratulate you for being one of the soloists on the Duruflé album that just won a Grammy. That must have been a tremendous experience.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big surprise. But at
surprised
the same time,
surprised that you won, or surprised that you were asked to sing?
Well, I think it was a surprise that we won. But at the same time, after, working with them and Bob Simpson, their artistic director, for a while already, it's not so much a surprise because they are amazing and they have been working so hard and they have achieved so many other things that, this seemed like a natural thing to happen to them. Right. And yes. I was just so honored and grateful that I was part of that project. But if I may say, I think one of the things that made it even more special is not just, of course, it's a Grammy, right? And what
too shabby.
What are we gonna say? But I think what made it even more meaningful and special to me was the fact that this was not just my first collaboration with them.
Right.
But, that we had been like nurturing and like having a very beautiful working relationship through the years. And so this one to me was already like very special because I said, this is going to be kept in a CD, the love and the whatever I feel, because every time I work with them is great. All of the singers in the ensemble, I mean, they're my colleagues and they're so respected in what they do. And I admire them a lot, as I said before. And, working with Bob Simpson, I mean, he's been great. I got to be part of the ensemble at some point, whenever anybody got sick, or I remember stepping in a couple times for one of their mezzos, and it's just been great to be part of the ensemble also. So that gave me like a huge sense of pride, when to have this award, but to have this CD that will last forever. I think that's the meaningful thing, is like, this is proof of my relationship with them, which I totally cherish.
You also sang with the Houston Chamber Choir in, I think it was 2013, the Mozart C minor Mass.
Yeah, actually, that was one of the times when I was part of the ensemble. I didn't do the solos, yeah. I remember Bob sending me an email saying, I think someone had to drop out or got sick. I can't remember quite well, but I remember singing that concert with them.
For you, you have a great deal of experience singing as part of an ensemble, as part of a choir, but you also have a great deal of experience singing as a soloist. Do you approach those two things, those two environments, differently in terms of how you sing?
I think so. Simply because when I sing in an ensemble, my job is not to stick out, right? Mm-hmm. We should aim for a uniformity of color and blending, and it takes a lot of listening to do that. I'm actually very grateful for my experience as an ensemble and choir member, because it really got my ears to be open. And that's something I also use when I'm singing as a soloist.
Because you're aware of the ensemble that you're singing with.
Oh, definitely. And and there are times, you know, many other times, like for example, when I sing early music, where the ensemble is very small. You know, there's probably only like 5 instrumentalists and then myself, and so that's when I can put in practice all of that. You know, and it doesn't matter how big the ensemble is or not, but it's definitely something I got and I acquired during my choral singing times. And yeah, I mean, the voice, you know, if I'm a soloist, I have more freedom of, you know, using the decisions I make, you know, expressive musicality and stuff. But when I sing in a choir, then it's most of the time the director tells us, you know, what he or she wants. And and so we all have to work together to do that.
I know that I think it was 2017, you worked with the chamber choir on a program titled Mexicantos, taking you back to your roots, perhaps. Tell us about that program.
Yeah, so I remember when they did I think this was the second time they did that program. The first time it was only them, but I remember it so well because I remember Bob asking me, you know, hey, you know, when he was putting together the repertoire. And then my husband, who is a percussionist, he played with them that first time. And then the second time, they invited me, to be a soloist. And so I had these interactions where the choir would do, you know, a couple pieces, and then I would sing a bolero. And then, you know, they would sing other 2 pieces again. So it was like we were taking turns doing these numbers. And I got the freedom to decide what songs I wanted to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it was so special because, again, you know, as you said, I had a chance to bring a lot of who I am. I mean, I pretty much grew up. So I always channel my mom, you know, when I have to sing the songs.
Right.
And it was just very special to be able to share what my culture is about, you know, and the beauty of our music. I think sometimes, you know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that sometimes when we think about Mexican music, we only think about one specific style, right? Like we probably immediately would go to mariachi or, but I think this music is it's so wonderful and not a lot of people know it. So for me, it was very special because, as I said, you know, I had collaborated with them before. And this was probably the first time I was a soloist with them.
Yeah. Does your mother have a favorite bolero?
I don't think so. She probably has 10.
Do you have a favorite?
Oof. I think it depends on the mood. But yeah, I mean, I love, what can I tell you? There is one that I did not a long time ago. It was part of my pandemic projects. It's a song by Armando Manzanero called Esperaré, which means I will wait. And it's a wonderful one. It's beautiful. But
Sing a little bit of it for us. Sing a little bit for us.
Okay, well, this song, for those of you that know, I mean, Armando Manzanero is from Mexico, but it was a Cuban wonderful singer, Celia Cruz, who pretty much made it famous, back in the 60s. And so she made this version, you know, that is like, I don't want to call it salsa because it's not salsa, but it has definitely that Cuban flavor. By the way, the song goes like this. Let me think about it. Okay. Esperaré a que sientas lo mismo que yo, a que a la luna la mires del mismo color. Esperaré que adivines mis versos de amor, a que en mis brazos encuentres calor. Esperaré a que vayas por donde yo voy, a que tu alma me des como yo te la doy. Esperaré a que aprendas de noche a soñar, a que de pronto me quieras besar. And then I'll leave you there.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you are able to do is to work in so many different genres, I guess. I mean, you sing a lot of early music, a lot of Baroque music. You sing a lot of the classical repertoire. One of the highlights of your solo career so far must be singing the role of Renata in Cruzar la cara de la luna, To Cross the Face of the Moon, which Houston Grand Opera commissioned and presented. The world's first mariachi opera.
Yes. Yes. That was an opera that was commissioned actually 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, it's been 10 years and we did it last year. I mean, we've been doing it for 10 years pretty much. It has definitely been one of the highlights, as you said, of my singing career. And it actually happened right after I told HGO, I need time because I need to know if I can be a soloist. And then, like, without them knowing, because this was part, again, of HGO Co., their outreach department, it came from there. They called me, like, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks later saying, we have this project. Do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be the lead? I was like, okay, well, let me see the libretto. And I was fearful because I didn't know if it was going to be authentic, you know.
Right.
I had to know a little bit more about it. And then they told me, Jose Pepe Martinez, the artistic director of Mariachi Vargas de Tecalitlan, is writing the music. I said, okay, I guess it's going to be authentic.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. I don't think anybody expected it to be the hit it became. But yes, I'm so grateful. It has been a beautiful journey singing this role. And then, as you know, this past December, we premiered the prequel to Cruzar.
And of course, we should point out that for Cruzar, the music is performed on stage by the mariachi.
Yes. So that was also what made this opera one of a kind. Not just the first time that mariachi and opera got together, but yes, we had the full mariachi band with us on stage. So they played the part of the chorus and the orchestra. And yeah, it was so unique, you know, because yes, it is a mariachi opera, but within the cast, you could see, you know, like operatic voices and then mariachi voices. And I always like to consider Renata to be somewhere in the middle, because most of the music that I had to sing was very bolero-like. I had all those ballads, you know, so expressive. And I always considered my music to have like the perfect blend of both, you know, where I could put a little bit of both. And I love it, you know. It is, I think it's just so unique, and not just because of the music and the way it was presented, but also the subject of the piece, you know, it doesn't matter. It's been 10 years and it's still like a subject, you know, that is so actual, right?
We should point out that the piece is about crossing the border, and where is home, and what are your thoughts about home when you leave home, etc.
Yeah.
And it takes the metaphor of the monarch butterfly,
Yeah.
and the migration from Mexico to the US.
Yeah.
And that was your experience in many respects.
Yeah, you know, it's a story about immigration. I call it the human side of immigration. These are the stories that people usually don't hear about, right? We only know about the laws and this and that, but we don't know about the stories, like what is behind that.
Right.
And this is just one of them, right? And yes, although, you know, my experience was not like Renata's, I am an immigrant. And I crossed, you know, the border.
Right.
And now I live here, and I left everybody behind. I left my family there, and I created my new family here. But yeah, I mean, it required sacrifice, right? I'm telling everybody how beautiful, you know, if this pandemic could bring something beautiful, is the fact that I am actually closer to my family now, because no one can get out, so everything is virtual. And I have been present in, you know, some of my family's big events, like, you know, my nephew's graduation or my brother's 25th wedding anniversary. They wouldn't have invited me because they know I'm here, or, you know, right. Or I wouldn't have been able to go. I would have just seen the photos, and I was able to be present just like anybody else was present, you know, in the same way. So yeah, I mean, going back to Cruzar is that, you know, and to think about where is home. Is it the people? Is it a building? What is it that makes home? And I'm still thinking about that. It's not an easy question to answer because, you know, I call Houston my home. But a big part of my heart is not here.
And within the four walls of the home that you're in now, you have a family. You have your husband, Jesus, and your daughter, Julia. And yeah. You mentioned that Jesus is a percussionist. Was it just by chance that you met and married another musician?
Yes and no. I met Jesus. We met in Germany.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. This was back in 2009. I actually went up to sing at the Oregon Bach Festival, and as you know, one of their founders, Helmut Rehling, was also the founder of the festival ensemble in Stuttgart back in Germany. And that year particularly, it was my first year there, and they didn't know me, but we were premiering a new Messiah by David Sven Sandstrom. And so we would do Handel's Messiah and then this Messiah, and it was our premiere. But they were also doing it a month later in Germany. Mm-hmm. And so they invited a group of us that went to Oregon and knew the piece to go and sing and, you know, help out the choir there. So I ended up going to Germany, last minute invitation, and I was there for a month, and my husband was one of the percussionists. And this new Messiah actually was a piece that pretty much half the stage was percussion.
Oh, really?
So he had a very important part to play. So right. I had to see him because he was pretty much running, you know, from here to there, playing, you know, going from the gongs to the vibraphone and xylophones and everything. They had everything there. So yeah, that's where we met. And time after that, trying to see if we could make things work and stuff. And after trying different things, he ended up coming here, and things worked for him. And so we're very happy that we were able to have our life here and our home here, and we work together sometimes, which we love, with the different companies in town. And our daughter, she's a trooper because she comes to rehearsal with us, or we have a very good army of babysitters that help us because
Right.
as you can think about, also Jesus's family is all in Spain, so we have no.
So you have no grandparents to come and babysit.
No. So,
Yeah.
but thankfully we have made family here too. A family of people that support us and that have helped us through our journey, and then people that we really, really trust. And so she's around all that, which is really nice.
Well, Cecy, I'm so glad that you and Jesus make Houston your home, and you have contributed immeasurably to the choral life of Houston. And we wish you all good things in the future, and hope that you and Jesus and Julio will stay safe during the pandemic. Cecilia Duarte, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for this chat. It's always great to see you and talk to you. And thank you to the chamber choir. And, hopefully we will be able to make music together.
In person.
Yes, in person.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, which is very special. But thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you. And thank you also to all the patrons and supporters of the Houston Chamber Choir. We couldn't do what we do without your support, so we're very grateful. Thank you very much. I'm St. John Flynn. Join us again next time.
Houston Chamber Choirs with One Accord is your one-stop shop to choral joy. Help us to continue our mission to grow the esteem and appreciation of choral music by sharing, reviewing, and subscribing to our content. Visit us at HoustonChamberChoir.org.